Welcome everyone. My name is Ole Nordberg and will be the moderator for this one-hour event. I am a Vice Rector for Space at the Luleå University of Technology. I have worked exclusively in the space field in my working life. My previous positions include head of the Swedish National Space Agency and head of the Esrange Space Center. I've had a really wonderful experience in Bengaluru with the Swedish Space Delegation in 2016. And I'm very impressed with the progress India is taking in the space sector. So for me, it was a great pleasure to accept the invitation to be chair of this hour and to have such distinguished guests speaking during our event. So I'm very much looking forward to our interaction today, which I hope will serve as an inspiration for many visits and contacts between colleagues in our two nations. This session will consist of two parts. The first, we will have 3 addresses, and in the second, we will have a panel discussion with 6 participants from both Sweden and India. And I will introduce each speaker and give them then the center stage. With that, I would like to introduce His Excellency, Mr. Claes Molin, Ambassador to Sweden to India, and he will give us a welcome remark. So, Mr. Molin, please.
Thank you, Dr. Nordberg, and good afternoon, good morning, everyone. And thank you very much for the opportunity to be with you today. I'm happy to recognize many well-known faces, not least Mr. Narayan and other members of the very illustrious panel that we'll be hearing from a little later. I'm also very gratified to be addressing a long-standing area of Swedish-Indian cooperation, space. We've had an MOU, a Memorandum of Understanding, for the last 35 odd years. I've had a chance during my tenure here in Delhi to visit both ISRO and Esrange, and it's wonderful to have a chance to try to help marry these two and hopefully many other interested parties in our countries in cooperation to follow. It's also very good to be doing it at the Bangalore Tech Summit, the tech capital of India, home to ISRO, and to a good many Swedish-Indian companies already. But as we all know, we're meeting digitally, however, during the pandemic, and I have a feeling that this is taking place more and more often now without us even thinking too much about that. Prime Minister Modi, we think, said it very well yesterday when he tied this year's theme of the Bangalore Tech Summit, Next is Now, to today's situation. We've had to adapt, and we've adapted very rapidly. Working from home, working from practically anywhere is already a new normal. When a still analog Prime Minister Modi was in Stockholm 2 years ago, he and Prime Minister Stefan Löfven agreed on a bilateral joint action plan. And not only did they single out space as one of 8 priority areas for us to focus on in our work during coming years, innovation, which underpins very much everything at this tech summit and what we're facing today, was given a standalone partnership for a sustainable future. We had a state visit in India last year. His Majesty the King, Her Majesty the Queen paid a visit together with 3 cabinet members, over 100 strong business delegation, and innovation was very much a bearing theme during the visit, and we held, Sweden and India, the first ever innovation dialogue between our two countries. One very concrete outcome already of this cooperation is that Sweden will be placing an instrument on the upcoming Indian Venus mission. I'm sure we'll hear more about that even today. We're also taking an important step today by bringing together not just experts and interested parties who will explore possibilities for further cooperation on and in space, but also with a commercial angle. And I think that's a good note to end on as I hand over back to you, Dr. Nordberg, that we find it a very good example in kind to see Mr. Narayan and colleagues from ISRO's and NSIL's very cleverly labeled In Space initiative. And we are looking very much forward to hearing from him and others on how we can take this cooperation further, how we can also introduce new partners, including on a commercial basis, perhaps in our partnership and in our cooperation going forward. It is I think it was earlier this week only that SpaceX had the docking at the International Space Center, and I think it was a very telling illustration of the kind of partnerships that are being forged already. So thank you very much for the opportunity and best of luck today.
Thank you very much, Ambassador Molin, for that very nice introduction. And we will then go on to Ms. Cecilia Hertz. She is the founder and CEO of Umbilical Design, a company specialized in sustainability and innovation. Ms. Hertz works actively with finding new applications for technology and new materials that are developed for space use. And she will give us a presentation on how Sweden is spearheading the use of space technology in the work to implement the global goals. So over to you, Cecilia.
So thank you very much. First of all, I'm of course very happy to be here and honored to give a speak in this 1-hour country panel from Sweden at Bangalore Tech Summit 2020. I'm happy to share with you some insights about space for sustainability. I'm of course also happy for the memorandum of understanding between India and Sweden, as India, as we know, is one of the fastest growing space industries. And I admire that India has a clear vision to explore the universe and other planets and to send humans to space. I really look forward to what Sweden and India can achieve together by accelerating cooperation within the space field. But let me start with sharing a story from my childhood. Even if stretching my fingers to reach the octave when playing the piano as a kid, it wasn't enough. I couldn't make it. But by adding a new way of playing the piano, my innovative teacher learned me how to play very complex sonatas that shouldn't be possible with my short fingers. So already as a kid, I was trained by acting in a new way. The impossible was within reach, and literally in the reach of my hands. I could play the very complex music thanks to his way of coaching me. Now you might wonder, what has this to do with space and sustainability? The reason why I wanted to share this little story with you all is because I can't emphasize enough that by doing things differently, you can actually reach what at first sight seems impossible. And this is the mindset we need to apply when addressing the Sustainable Development Goals in Agenda 2030. I would like to refer also to the important photo Earthrise taken in 1968 by Apollo 8 astronaut William Anders, and that is the first photo of Earth taken from space. The pale blue dot or the blue marble showing the Earth hanging in the empty space communicated for the first time how small and fragile planet Earth is. Several of the astronauts that I have met and worked with over the past 20 years say that they would like to see politicians and decision makers travel to space to understand the vulnerability of our planet and also experience that from space we see no borders. We also need to remind ourselves that once upon a time there was only space. And now when we have both space and Earth, we need to, in a higher extent, build an interaction that will be beneficial for our planet Earth. When exploring new frontiers, we in parallel need to ensure a process to bring back knowledge and insight for the greater good of humanity. A person who addressed this was Dr. Sally Ride, the first American woman in space, who pointed out that although we have sent highly sophisticated spacecraft to study other planets, we have not taken a similar interest in our own planet. She and her team recommended to start mission to planet Earth. This brings us into the importance of the space perspective. Many people wonder how space is linked to sustainability. A common perspective is that these two are far apart. But when thinking about the International Space Station and future habitation on the Moon and Mars, they are totally closed systems, and everything as far as possible need to be recycled and reused. When people started to talk about circular economy, I was reflecting that is what we are doing in human spaceflight. In space, we see everything as resources and nothing as waste. Astronauts consume exactly the amount of energy, food, volume, water they need. So what if we could apply what I call the astronaut lifestyle in our innovation processes, especially when it comes to developing our future cities for increased sustainability, both through space technology and behavior changes. It brings us new perspectives and inspire to be urban astronauts, what I call the urbanauts. Space sector can bring so much more than invaluable technologies. It's how we work together in a global context to achieve complex goals. For sustainable development beside technology, we need to add passion, mindset, team, and behavior changes. This is something I experienced already 20 years back in time when I, for the first time, came to NASA Johnson Space Center in Houston as one of 20 lucky students from Sweden when studying industrial design at Lund Institute of Technology. I would say that three things particularly caught my attention. The interdisciplinary teams consisting of passionate world-leading experts, complex and challenging projects with long-term planning scenarios of 30 to 50 years. Finally, it was more questions than available answers. This really triggered my curiosity as a designer and actually inspired me to start my own company. The moon landing, we need to mention, of course, was pushing the limits for what we all thought was possible. And I can't highly enough encourage the importance of pushing the limits now when it comes to achieve Agenda 2030. And also highlight the fact that everyone can contribute. Instead of the impossible feeling, let's inspire to the I'm possible feeling. The sustainability focus is high on the agenda in Sweden, now also with Greta Thunberg paving the way on a global level, which also brings us into the important area of inspiring the coming generation on how space can contribute to Agenda 2030. We are in the beginning of a decade of action, and we will enlighten how space can be part of the solution. I'm also happy to be program manager for the Space Week in the Swedish pavilion at Expo 2020 in Dubai, opening less than 1 year from now. It will be a great platform with global presence to showcase our Swedish space sector and different areas where Earth can benefit from the space perspective. Our topics will range from space for future food production to maybe the more unexpected space for wildlife, how space technology can contribute to stop poaching. By involving the space sector, we have all technology we can wish for. So the focus will also be on leadership, creativity, and interdisciplinary global co-creation. We need more of this ambitious, exploratory, and groundbreaking projects, especially now when we have a decade of action to reach Agenda 2030. We enter a new era of new space with new players, commercial entrepreneurs and businesses, new services, applications of space data, precision, navigation and agriculture, surveillance and Earth environment monitoring, to more futuristic such as space tourism and asteroid mining. And I believe that the best days of space programs are yet to come. When we continue the space exploration, we need to in parallel accelerate the commercialization of space technologies so we can take the needed giant leaps, not only between planets, but on our own planet for the benefit of humankind. I look forward to identify more creative ways for the space programs to combine their talents by building durable links between our individual efforts in space science and exploration. And by adding space in a wider extent to Agenda 2030, we have a new toolbox to explore. But let us never forget that it's all about the people. I used to talk about the why not people. People that when confronted with new, maybe a bit unexpected ideas or challenges, actually can say why not. These are the people that will make the difference and accelerate innovations and contribute to sustainable development. We talk today about global citizens, but I would like to encourage to become citizens of universe, to create a better understanding that we are all connected, and as an everyday reminder that we actually already live in space. And when understanding how much, or rather how little we know about universe, only 5%, the rest is dark matter and dark energy, it becomes clear that the only way forward is to keep exploring. And by that, I want to say thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Cecilia, for that very nice address. Sustainability is definitely extremely crucial for our future. We will now have a special address by Mr. Narayanan, who is the chairman and managing director of New Space India Limited. He joined ISRO in 1983, where he has had several high-ranking positions, and Mr. Narayanan has also served as the first Secretary of Space at the Embassy of India in Paris and the ISRO Technical Liaison Officer for Europe. He's represented India in various international fora, including the United Nations, the UN Conference on Disarmament, UNESCO, OECD, and the International Space University. It will be very nice to hear your views, Mr. Narayanan.
Thank you very much, Mr. Norberg, for the introduction. Your Excellency, Ambassador Claes Moulin, members of this panel, and other participants, greetings to you all. At the outset, let me congratulate the Embassy of Sweden and BBS for bringing together this panel for the very significant concept of Sweden-India Space Technology Cooperation for the most important topic of sustainable future. I am aware that Ambassador Moulin had been very proactive in promoting India as a key destination for Swedish companies. I am sure the deliberations of this panel and its follow-ons will lead to an increased collaboration between the space industries on both sides on a win-win platform. My memories of space collaboration with Sweden dates back 37 years, the day I joined the Indian Space Research Organization, where I was part of a team which had collaboration with the space giant of Sweden, Messrs. Volvo Aero, and needless to say, it was a very successful one. As we know, the bilateral activities with Swedish National Space Agency progressed well with the significant payload in India's first lunar explorer Chandrayaan-1 coming from Sweden. As Ambassador mentioned, currently both teams are working on the payload proposed on the India's first mission to Venus. Swedish Space Corporation was also extending telemetry tracking and control systems support for our India's remote sensing missions. This has been happening on one side. In India, ISRO was continuously expanding the spectrum of space activities. Along with the primary objectives of serving the society, we added space science and interplanetary exploration missions like the mission to Moon, Mars, etc. Further expansion is happening with the announcement of the Gaganyaan, the Indian spaceflight mission, human spaceflight mission. As all these were being done with ISRO in the forefront, supported by the Indian industry and the academic ecosystem. International cooperation also had played its role in the whole development and success stories. While this had been a success story overall, it had its own challenges in addressing primarily the resource requirements of the future endeavors, apart from fear of not being able to fully meet the growing, rather surging demands for space-based services in the country. Further fears of ISRO's highly specialized, talented and skilled human resources getting tied up with operational activities, leaving little time for their primary role of research and development were also not unfounded. Space sector has also in the recent times become a significant contributor to the economy of many spacefaring nations, whereas in India it is yet to happen. However, in India, there is an increased enthusiasm in space activities. Several startups have emerged. several industries have taken up their own space activities. Considering this, the Government of India has announced the reforms in space sector with the intention of unlocking the space potential of India. Going forward, the industry will be playing a significant role in Indian space journey. All efforts are being made to transform the role of industry from being the suppliers or vendors of ISRO to a co-traveler in Indian space program. A new body, the Indian National Space Authorization and Promotion Center, is created for this purpose of hand-holding with industries and authorizing their activities. While the formal constitution of this center is awaited, a small team at ISRO headquarters has already been constituted, and they are actively engaged with several companies for facilitating their planned activities in the change scenario. In this new scenario, the company that I represent, New Space India Limited, the public sector enterprise under the Department of Space, will take over the role in operational systems hitherto handled by ISRO. NCL will be consolidating the regular requirements from different users of space and will be delivering systems and solutions utilizing the expertise in the country side by side to those that will be delivered by the industry, or rather non-governmental sector, which is being promoted under the new regime. Along with this institutional framework, new or upgraded, inclusive and supportive policy framework is also being evolved. The proposed space communication policy is already in the public domain, seeking opinion. Similarly, the proposed remote sensing policy will also be available in public domain shortly. The space activity bill, which the country lacks, has cleared all these stages and is in a much advanced stage and is expected to be in place shortly. At the same time, in Sweden also, the government has announced large plans to widen the space activities. The very recent decision to establish capability of launch small satellites from Esrange Space Center is also a major initiative. In brief, both countries are in an exciting phase in their space activities, and with the current trends of global cooperation and trade, wide scope exists for collaboration between both sides. I wish fruitful deliberations in this panel, which should lead to various actions towards capitalizing these opportunities. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Narayanan. This is very interesting to hear that there is a completely new paradigm within ISRO to work with the commercial activities. We will now proceed to hear several views from organizations both in Sweden and India on how they see the path forward. In particular, in respect to cooperation for the benefit of both parties. And as we know, as we also have heard, it's been a spectacular boost lately in Indian space activities. And I'm sure that we will see the same in the future. This will lead to opportunities for all to make profitable business at the same time as we continue to grow the benefit to our respective countries. And we will see increased space communication, we will see internet to everyone, Earth observation, climate change monitoring, global navigation, emergency management response, space exploration, and all other future benefits that come to society due to space. So let me now introduce the panelists who, in addition to Mr. Narayanan, will take part in this discussion. Mr. Christer Fuglesang is a former ESA astronaut. He was an active astronaut for 18 years and performed 2 missions with the Space Shuttle Discovery to the International Space Station in 2006 and 2009. Mr. Fuglesang is now professor at the KTH Royal Institute of Technology, where he is director of the KTH Space Center. He's also working half-time as space advisor for Saab in the strategy group. We have Ms. Anna Maria Johansson, Head of Legal Affairs and International Relations at the Swedish National Space Agency. She has a background in public and international law and a wide experience when working in intergovernmental and governmental affairs. We have Ms. Miranda Piri. President Satellite Management Team Services Division, and member of the executive team at the Swedish Space Corporation. Ms. Miranda Piri is a chartered aerospace engineer and has worked for 30 years within the space and aviation industry. She has experience from the Airbus Group, Inmarsat, Rolls-Royce Aero Engines, and Go Air Airlines in India. Mr. Lakshmesh is head of missiles and aerospace business at L&T Defense, Larsen & Toubro. He has been instrumental in bringing transformational changes in the core sector domains of process industry, nuclear, defense, and aerospace. And he holds several positions in expert advisor roles in industry and national councils in India. And Mr. Surendra Vaidya, Executive Vice President and Business Head at Godrej Aerospace. Mr. Vaidya has a long expertise in aerospace and space industries. He joined Godrej in 1987 and has been instrumental for growing the company's business in this field. So, I will ask Mr. Fuglesang to give his first address, and then we will continue to hear also the others.
Well, thank you, Ole, and thank you for inviting me to this very interesting seminar. I've been very lucky. I haven't had opportunity to visit India a couple of times, and most of the times actually related to space. Either I've been talking about my space missions, or I've been visiting many of the very impressive Indian space centers and space activities and companies. It's really impressive what India are doing and have been doing for 50 years in space, and a whole program from rockets to satellites into their planetary space probes. And I really hope that Sweden and India can find ways to work more together, also related to space in addition to other areas. I had opportunity to meet the Indian astronaut Rakesh Sharma at an event at the Swedish embassy, a Nobel event a couple of years ago. And for astronauts, of course, the ultimate space endeavor, that is to send humans to space. And I'm so much looking forward to see you in India, hopefully sometime in 2 years, will send their own first crew vehicle, Gaganyaan, to space. And not only is it a fantastic feat, it's also extremely inspirational for the whole nation, and it will help the whole nation to find even more talent to STEM areas, not only to space. It also creates a lot of world admiration, such endeavors. Sweden is much smaller, but we still have many talented and smart engineers and researchers, scientists, and also entrepreneurs. And we have some very world-leading companies with technological edge in several areas, including space. As was mentioned by Ole, I'm working myself with Saab, the defense company, and there we are using our edge in AI, in machine learning, in radar technology, in software-defined radios to develop space products. These products which can improve and speed up how we take data from space and interpret it and show it for users. We can build radars for space situational awareness. We can use this software-defined radio to continue working on Saab's edge in AIS, Automatic Identification System, for the new generation, which is called VIDES, which will based on satellites also and increase the maritime safety. So that satellite will, an orbit satellite, will actually be built together with another Swedish company, AAC Clyde, a Swedish-Scottish company. And indeed, there are many companies in Sweden which are doing all aspects of space activities, as well as there are research in institutes and universities. And Though the interesting thing is, of course, that space, that is really the ultimate international endeavor. And when I was up on the International Space Station for my second flight, we were 13 astronauts there from 5 different countries and even cultural backgrounds. And we were really working together, solving the problems together. And that's how you improve things. And I remember how we enjoyed together looking down on the wonderful views of this beautiful planet Earth, which is the home to all of us. And you didn't see any borders. It's natural that we should work together. And by doing that, we have win-wins. And I know there's a lot of possible win-wins between Sweden and India, both between companies and between research institutes. And I'm very happy with these kind of events, which will help the players to find the win-win situations. By working together, both sides can improve. So with these short words, I look forward to future cooperation between Sweden and India, not only in space, but in many other areas as well. So thank you.
Thank you, Christer, for that very inspirational address. And the Swedish Space Corporation, the floor is yours, Miranda.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Oli, and greetings to India, greetings to all my other panel members and esteemed guests. So I was very pleased that that Mr. Narayan actually mentioned SSC and the partnership that we've had with ISRO and ISTRAC closely with my business unit for over 20 years, because I did start off thinking when Ambassador Molen said he would like us to get married, that in fact we already had been married for 20 years, but maybe it's just a partnership. So I apologize if you didn't know. It's sort of like my father, but we are actually together, and we've been working very closely together for over 20 years on a whole range of missions. And it's truly a partnership where ISRO and the team in India have been supporting us and SSC on our global missions around the world. And we support missions from lunar and human space flight back through the full range of services through to constellations and low Earth orbit. We provide tracking through on the life cycle from launch and supporting launches from India. I've actually even been lucky enough to be in Sriharikota for a launch, so very exciting. But it's not only about that, it's also about tracking, providing the tracking through the full phase of the satellite activity and even deorbit of satellites. So we've worked together on the full life cycle and globally and serving the Indian market. And we plan to do that much more in the future as well. And we have activities ongoing, very short-term missions and also kind of longer-term plans. We are already engaged with some of the other players in the Indian space market, again with this idea of having a two-way partnership. So how can we better serve the Indian space economy, and how can we support our partners in going global? India has DNA of innovation, technical excellence, and also pace. And all of those three attributes are vital in the commercialization of the space industry. We've seen it in America with, of course, SpaceX that Ambassador Molen mentioned, but many other players and in other countries around the world. This opening up of the space environment in India is only going to accelerate the pace of services that can be offered to people, to humans both in space, but mainly on the ground, because we all think and get inspiration and are extremely inspired by people who've been in space and the people who help make that happen. And there's a general wonder there. But all of us, all human individuals, are already using the services of space, whether it's on our mobile phone, whether it's to find where we're going, it's in agriculture to make it more, economical. In a whole multitude of areas, space is supporting our life on Earth, including India, but further afield as well. So increasing that in terms of pace and scope is only going to be positive, I think, and we look forward to the journey together.
Thank you, Miranda, for those very interesting words. I think we will proceed now to Mr. Laxmesh from L&T and hear your view on future cooperation. Laxmesh.
His Excellency Ambassador Mulin, astronaut Hung Sang, Mr. Nav, and all the other panel members, Dr. Narayanan. It's really a great honor to be on part of this Indo-Sweden relationship. And something of space, I understand that Sweden and India have been partners in this for almost more than 2 decades now. So this is a relationship which has been well established and is going to get stronger by the day. I represent a company called Larsen & Toubro. It's an Indian multinational, a $20 billion Indian multinational in various domains: engineering, construction, projects, critical manufacturing, and power. Defense and space happens to be one vertical, and we have been partnered to the Indian Space Research Organization. Come 2021, we would be celebrating 5 decades of partnership with ISRO. For almost 50 years, we've been with ISRO right from their first mission. And over these years, we've been partnered to them in launch vehicle subsystems, satellite subsystems, establishing communication, large deep space networking antennas, C-band radars, establishing SATCOM infrastructure, establishing space technology and R&D facilities, high altitude test facilities, engine test facilities. And we have also been partnering ISRO in developing newer technologies in terms of materials, in terms of processors, in terms of engine technologies. So we've been with them for now, as I said, for 5 decades. And we see that now the liberalization, which is happening in this country, we have seen earlier similar liberalization happening in core sectors of defense, nuclear, aviation. In fact, the first one was the automotive and subsequent was aviation and things like that. So we also feel that the timing is right, where the space is becoming a fourth economic frontier. And as Larsen & Toubro, we have been partnering with various domestic and global majors across all our businesses. We believe in building collaborative solutions. We believe in building ecosystems in any business and every business that we get into. And we have had some kinds of interactions thanks to Business Sweden. They've kind of put us across to various Swedish companies which are in the domain of space. We are engaging with some of them, getting deeper into understanding their offerings and how we can work together in not only offering solutions to ISRO, as we have been, let's call, as a super tier 1 to them, but also look at the opportunities which now gets open to support with NSIL, Ms. Narayanan is there, and also work through other direct like what he mentioned about co-travelers. So we certainly look at creating these partnerships and looking at solutions and creating the space sustainable. And that's, I really like the first speaker, Cecilia, talking about space and sustainability, because when we are going to look at space as that new frontier, we must ensure that this is a sustainable one. It is for all the people on this earth. And we are very much proud to be part of that endeavor. Looking forward to engaging with Swedish SSC and various other Swedish companies in space domain, and providing solutions not only to the Indian requirement, but also to the global requirement. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Laxmesh. I would like now to give the floor to Mr. Vaidya from Godring Aerospace.
Thank you, Dr. Nurbag. Greetings to all the panelists as well as members. My name is Vaidya and I represent Godrej Aerospace based in Mumbai. Like Larsen & Toubro, we are also working with Indian space program since 1985, so it's more than 3 decades now. And we have specialty manufacturing liquid propulsion systems for the launch vehicles. And there we have already established some connections with the Volvo when we were manufacturing the part of European space program, the Viking engines. So we make them in India called as Vikas engines. And these have been used in multiple platforms. And I think most of our launch vehicles, the second stage is constructed out of these Vikas engines or the Viking engines. We also work on the cryogenics and the semi-cryogenic engines. We also have participation on all the thrusters which a satellite uses or any orbiter uses. And we also take a very small portion of the ground satellite remote sensing antennas. So that's the scope in which we work. We are based in Mumbai, and it's once again like a Larsen & Toubro multi-product, more than 6 billion organization having more than 50,000 employees. So that's the background. Now, into today's special topic, I think I will look at this in a very, very positive way today, especially when the government of India has announced the big reforms in the space, allowing private participation. And not only in space, but I think they are going to encourage into the defense and civil aviation also. Because I think this triangle is a very, very solid and very robust triangle. If you work only in space, probably your numbers may not justify your investments and all the work you will do in development of technologies. But if you can work together between space and civil aviation, I think the numbers as well as the utilization of the developed technologies, like a spin-off what we have from the space technologies to other industries, that can be really worked out very well. I would like to bring a second point to the attention of all the panelists as well as the members. Is it is not only the two organizations should work together between the Sweden and India. I think we have a very large scope if we work together between the public-private partnership as well as academia and the industry, because I think the basic research has to really get matured not only in industry, but also has to get matured at the academia. So we are very keen and open to work not only with the Swedish industries, but we would also like to work with the Swedish academia and would like to sponsor some of the projects which we can co-develop and we can have multiple benefits. Important point is that in this co-development, we would like to focus on to the green energy. Today, all that what we are doing in the liquid side, as you know that the European Space Agency has already phased out uses of Viking engines, but India still believes or has the Vikas engine as one of the robust propulsion system. And there is a need for us to really look into something which is better technology, which will be able to maintain the environment also as we want to really look for the future. I think there are another areas in which we can together. That is in the basic manufacturing. It is not only the research which is going to have it, but Industry 4.0, automation, where the Sweden has done substantial progress. I think that is something what India must learn, because that is where we have to move from our current phase of low volume high technology and a quality-oriented production to a competitive production, which is going to bring down our cost of manufacturing, and the cost of manufacturing can come down only if we invest into the artificial intelligence, Industry 4.0 principles, and the automation, which can be a low-cost automation or it can be a fully robotic automation. Lastly, I think if we have to be really successful, I will advise that we should really look into and to see that Ms. Anna Maria, she couldn't complete, but I'm sure that the two technical minds, I'm just taking it on a very lighter way, can merge together quickly, but merging two legal minds may take little longer time. So I think working together on the legal system so that we can get into the partnership more as quickly as possible, and then really focus and concentrate onto the technology. So I think these are the areas which I would like to really impress and would like to work along with the team members. Thank you for giving me this opportunity and look forward to work with the Swedish companies. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Vaidya. And as a vice rector of a Swedish university, I'm very happy that you brought up the importance of academia. I think both in India and Sweden, we have very active universities and institutes that are very keen on working together with industry. But I can assure you, as previous Director General of the Swedish National Space Agency, that the agency is very keen on working towards the common goals we have between Sweden and India. I think we will have to wrap up our hour that was cut short, unfortunately. I would like to thank you all for participating in this very interesting discussion. I think we have a good ground to stand on when it comes to future collaboration. A great thank you to the embassy in India, Ambassador Molin and his staff, and also
the colleagues.
To Business Sweden, the Swedish Trade and Investment Council, and in particular there, Sofia Berglund, that has organized this session. With that, I would like to wish you a very nice continued day and also a very nice weekend. Thank you very much.